Hi everyone, here's the Book Chemist once again. Today I'm reviewing Life During Peacetime by Francesco Pecoraro, a big, ambitious novel about life in the second half of the 20th century. In some ways, this is very much a novel about Italy, and I've even heard it described as the great Italian novel. But I do feel that it's many of its reflections about consumerism, about social unrest, will resonate with readers across the world. And definitely its constant note of cosmic pessimism and horror is going to be interesting and be stimulating to a lot of readers, regardless of where they're from. Which is actually why I'm talking about it on the channel, based on the conversations I've had with many of you in the comments and on the taste some of you and I share, maybe our taste for H.P. Lovecraft, more on that in a second. I think this book might be right up your alley. Life During Peacetime is very much an indictment of what the title says, of life during peacetime, of peace, seen as a time of subterranean, suppurating strife that brings out a great ugliness in human beings and in their societies. Really, it's an indictment of life itself. In its opening pages, it goes into a long reflection on parasites, on the way they fester inside human beings, on the way they feast on human flesh and on the flesh of animals. And at times it feels as if the novel sees all life and really all types of movement and energy as something similarly parasitical, ugly, ultimately destructive and disgusting. Certainly it describes the life of its protagonist, an engineer in his 60s called Ivo Brandani, in frank and unforgiving terms, and by focusing almost obsessively on the shadows that marked this fairly common life, focusing on abandoned or betrayed lovers, on bitter disappointments, gluttonous indulgences, compromises, cowardice. The novel follows Ivo as he takes a plane back to Rome from Egypt after having completed a job, a bit of an assessment for a company he works for. He's working on a project that is as dystopic as it sounds sadly believable. The substitution of the Egyptian coral reef, ruined beyond recovery by climate change, with a secret man-made facsimile, a plastic alternative that will be installed in the sea to take over the real thing that's now been lost. However, in alternating chapter, we alternate between Ivo's trip, which is marked by his reflection, his bitter reflections on the often horrid, often dark nature of existence, with long chapters that focus on flashbacks from his life. The flashbacks start as fairly recent and then go back further and further into his life, all the way to his childhood and even beyond by the end of the book. And I think that this structure, this alternating structure, is quite a winning one because it provides the novel with a bit of a built-in engine that propels the narrative forward. Because the reflections we read about in the chapters following him on his plane trip, while sometimes interesting and fascinating, are also rather heavy and definitely dark. Whereas the flashback chapters have much more of much more narrative momentum. They're engrossing, they're stimulating. Each of them is a bit of a self-conclusive story, and they deal with rather interesting moments in his life, with a fortuitous trip to Greece that he took in his old age, with a different trip, a different holiday that he took with his boss when he was still a young engineer, his experience as a student during the 1968 student protests and beyond. What I found really compelling about the novel, and the reason why I think lots of you will enjoy it, is that it really can be read in two different ways that don't really contradict each other, but for me existed almost in parallel throughout the reading. On the one hand, this is very much a literary fiction novel, a story about the disappointments in the life of a man who is by no means exceedingly evil. In fact, often in his indulgences, his sins, his difficulties, he feels fairly relatable, and some of his reflections I think we will all be able to empathize with, even some of the darker among his reflections. It's, as I said, a fairly common life. He had dreams of professional success. He dreamt of building a bridge one day, but never really managed to get any close. He had relationships in which he believed, but then that collapsed later on. In some ways, it's the story about his life. But on the other hand, it's also a story of cosmic horror, almost a supernatural tale of cosmic horror. In fact, this is an extremely Lovecraftian novel. Science fiction is mentioned several times as a favorite pastime of Ivo when he was young. But I feel like the references to H.P. Lovecraft, even more than science fiction, are hidden and unacknowledged. And I'm not saying that Pecoraro had Lovecraft in mind. For all I know, he never even read him. But the parallels are so strong that are hard to avoid. It's almost as if each of these flashback chapters tackles a different Lovecraftian trope. We have a chapter talking about some kind of alien god, idiot god, as the engine of creation existing somewhere in the cosmos, and life as the accident of this idiotic entity. We have chapters where Ivo witnesses something unspeakable on a beach at night after stumbling around inebriated. Chapters where Ivo talks about his desire to escape the troubles of life into the depths of the ocean. Chapters where he sees the mask of a hidden evil in his family tree emerging in the mirror when he looks at himself in the mirror. And even more of these types of Lovecraftian tropes. Life During Peacetime feels like a death metal album. It's long, it's heavy, it's grim, it's brutal, it's meandering, it's fairly monochromatic, but it's not lacking in a certain dark charm. And at times, you even have some moments of fairly crystalline beauty that twinkle all the brighter because they are immersed in so much darkness, a little bit like the acoustic outros or intros of some death metal songs. I thought at first that I would struggle with it, but the truth is that it was more engaging and engrossing and rewarding and really fun in its own dark death metal way than I was expecting it. I do recommend it. I look forward to hearing from you if you've read it. I don't think it had much success in the English-speaking world, but as far as I can tell, you can still find it on book-selling websites. I think you can find it on Blackwell's in the UK. I think you can find it on IndieBound/bookseller in the US. I'll double-check, put links in the description box. But if you can get your hands on it, if you read it, let me know if you enjoyed it. I look forward to discussing it in the comments, really. Thanks so much to everybody for watching the review, and bye, everybody.